not necessarily that it was relief, but there was so much build up to that fight with Miesha. How good did it feel to just finally have it over, get the win, just move on?
No, relief is a part of winning, you know. When you win, I feel like it's a mix of exuberance and relief. And yeah, it was as relieving and fulfilling. It was to such a point that everybody booing and everything like that, and it didn't even really bother me in the least. So I was just pretty much, where's my mama? We're going. But today is done. Another good day of work. And then, yeah, I just wanted to leave after that. And it's funny, like, I kind of put wins away really quick. I don't really revel in it that much, you know. I kind of just take a week to, you know, sit down and have nothing to worry about. And I think my favorite part is driving back home afterward. That's why I love fighting in Vegas, because I drive there, because I drive back. I want to sit and be fat and happy all the way. I don't care if there's a lot of traffic. I'm like, we're stopping at Alien Jerky. I'm going to get my buffalo jerky. I'm going to sit here and chew on this and be fat all the way home and have nothing to worry about, because I just won and I'm on the road and I can't do anything for anyone. And this is just, you know. And so I really look forward to that stuff. And it's the same things I look forward to after a win with anyone, regardless of how I feel about them or not.
Was there anything you were most proud of in terms of your own performance in that fight? You did go longer than ever before, and you showed more versatility on the ground, I thought, than other fights. Was there anything you stood out in your mind that said, hey, you know what, this is what I'm really taking home and proud of after this one?
I think I was proud of how I felt, like, endurance-wise. Mm-hmm. You know, I felt like my pace stayed the same throughout all three of the rounds, and I didn't feel like I needed to slow down at all. And I just after I got past that first round and we were going to the second, I was happy that I wasn't stuck up on it at all. Like I really did accept that it was going to go 5 rounds, you know, I think it was mostly like when the third round started, and I felt like I was actually like getting into my groove, you know, and it's funny, my first match was always the worst in judo. And so if he was like, oh, you only have 1 round in you, it's like, man, my first one's always my worst. And so I really felt like happy to be able to open up and really feel what, you know, the rest of the fight was going to be like. And I think that it going the distance and me knowing that I really can handle 5-minute rounds without slowing down at all is what I was most happy to take away from that fight.
Did you feel any sense of her breaking? You tossed her a few times. Every time you did, the crowd went crazy. Was there anything you sensed in her give back during that fight where you felt there was a point where you were breaking her?
The point where I felt like she really was like broken, if you put it that way, is the third round, right in the beginning. I caught her with a right hand and she was like out on her feet, and that's how she really staggered back to the wall. And when I was leaning on her there, the way that I heard her breathing, I knew that a submission would be very easy right then, and a takedown would be very easy right then, just from the way that she was breathing and how she looked after I hit her. And so that's why I went for that takedown right then. You know, it wasn't the best or tightest thing to do at the time. So if I was fighting a fresh opponent, I wouldn't have done that throw right then. But because she felt like that, I just wanted to get her to the ground any way possible. And so that's why I did I dropped down for the sumigaeshi, which is what that's actually called. And went for the submission right away then, because I felt like she wasn't in she didn't have all of her, you know, facilities at that moment, and that's why I really felt her, you know, kind of give out a little bit, and so that's why I rushed for the armbar right at that moment.
How much difference is it to train for a fighter that you don't really like compared to someone you respect?
I really don't think there's much difference in how you train. The one difference was Edvin had this great idea where he was like, you know how like in Rocky IV they had like Ivan Drago on the mirror? It's like, we're just gonna put that bitch's face right on the chest protector and I just want you to hit her in the face. And I was like, all right, sure. He's like, I'm such a genius. No one's ever thought of this before. I'm like, yes, you're a genius. And so, yeah, one day, like, the countdown crew showed up to film. We put the chest protector on and then had her face on it. And so it was very smart, though, because, like, you know, you do see someone's face who you distinctly don't like. It does, like, bring certain emotions out in you. And so it did kind of recreate those emotions that I had for her while I was doing mitt work. And it really, to recreate those emotions when you're training, I think my mom always refers to Thorndike's law of transfer, that you always have to like make one situation is similar to what your like the more similar your practice situation is, the more that's going to transfer over for what you're actually training for. And so I think that was the only real difference, is we tried to make and oh my god, I think Edwin would purposely try to like get on my nerves and like get me like frustrated and get me mad when I was at practice, and because he would want me to get like that flustered feeling and not get emotional. And so he actually admitted that to doing that, like on sparring days he would purposely get on my nerves and get me like aggravated about something and then send me in there to go spar while I was mad.
How emotional were you that night?
Not at all.
No.
Oh, sorry.
But there were a couple things I think that happened in the fight that I wouldn't have done unless like I was kind of pissed off a little bit. Like that stupid kick thing that she did. Just like, no. It reminded me of my sister. Whenever you tried to hit her, she would lay down on the couch and just kick her legs out and just be like, don't come near me. Don't come near, like just like that. And then like when that happened, I was like, that is so stupid. And when she tried to stand up, I just tried to kick her just because she tried to kick me. And like, that probably wasn't the best time to throw a kick. So that was the only time that I thought something emotional happened. And it didn't have anything to do with her. It had to do with like how stupid, like, whoever does that looks stupid. Like, you can't do that in a girl's fight and make it look like the girls just kick like that. Like, that makes no sense. That doesn't hurt me at all. You're just like throwing a fit. And yeah, that was the only like moment where I felt emotional, I think.
Is it easier to deal with all the media, considering they're not constantly asking questions about someone like Miesha who you really have a disdain for, instead of this time this go on?
It's nicer to change it up, and I really feel like my career has matured past the point where that's really necessary. I think in the beginning when I kind of started that whole rivalry thing, it was needed at the time. You know, people needed to care about why we were fighting, because they weren't going to care just about the fight itself, because they didn't care about women's fights back then. So then it was kind of like a necessary evil, and now I feel like, you know, women's MMA is at a point where it's not needed, and so I don't have to really partake anymore, even if someone tries to, like, you know, starting a fight with me is very lucrative for the other girls. So even if they try to start it with me now, I really don't have to oblige anymore. And yeah, so Miesha's probably the last person I'll engage in that kind of way.
And to that end, well, the fight with Sara obviously elevates the sport, like you were saying, because of the Olympic pedigree that you both have. And so in terms of this now, that legitimizes the fight in and of itself, yeah? Yeah,
and it's this kind of reminds me of when I fought. Oops, my thing fell off. A lot of hair and sticky things. But yeah, the first time I fought Miesha, she was supposed to fight Sara, right, in Kaufman, and they ended up having me and Miesha fight because the whole, you know, everyone argued about why, but it happened and everyone liked it, and. So then I fought Kaufman after that, and so many people were into so many people's attention was brought to that fight afterward that I think that the views for the Kaufman fight was actually 20% more than the views for me and Miesha. And I really hope that same kind of effect happens here, where a lot of people are paying attention for the last fight, and then we can really top the amount of like viewers and attention that we got for us. For me and Miesha in the last fight, because they're just interested in the fight itself, you know, and I think and it'll be pushed only on our athletic merit with each other, and that just these two athletes being the best in this kind of and us coming together in this environment, I think it sells more in itself than, you know, any kind of like arguments could.
Before your first fight against Liz, you know, it was the first women's fight in the UFC. Now they're adding a second division, Ultimate Fighter and all that. Do you feel a little bit more free now going into fights, knowing that the weight of the whole women's MMA isn't on your shoulders anymore?
Well, I like to have a lot of pressure when I fight, but I hated the state of fragility that women's MMA was in before. And so I think that I do feel a lot better knowing that weight is off of me. Not that I don't like to have pressure, but I don't want to have to worry. And so I think having these 2 fights back to back adds enough pressure in itself where it's not really common practice, and there's such a long time without any rest. I really feel like this is just one long run, pretty much from the 2 movies to this fight to the last fight to this fight. It's just one long run that's like one big accomplishment I'm trying to finish. And what was I going with that? What was
You
your
didn't have to have the weight of the women's division.
Oh yeah. So I don't really need that weight anymore to motivate me, and I'm just so overjoyed that it's happened so quickly. Like the women's MMA experiment is now 2 divisions, is no longer experimental, and we're winning fights of the night, and it's the fans are excited about it, and I'm so happy that the last Ultimate Fighter had guys and girls, because it really showed the ratings difference between when the guys are fighting and when the girls are fighting. The girls are actually got more ratings, and so it really I think encourages them to open up a season that's just all girls. And I hope I hope they all have a great time and enjoy themselves, and I hope that they're treated much better than I was.
At the post-fight press conference, you said that you respected Miesha as a competitor, but you wouldn't shake her hand until she apologized to your family. I'm just curious, has there been any apologies?
No. Miesha she's the type where when she reached out to shake my hand after that fight, she wouldn't have done that if it was just us in a gym, alone. That was an action that was influenced by being watched. Me not shaking her hand was an action despite being watched. And the kind of private apology that I would be asking for is the kind of apology that wouldn't be watched. When they said before, when Caraway threatened to knock my teeth down my throat on Twitter, he said that, I apologize, but he never apologized to me. He publicly apologized for offending people on Twitter, but that's not an apology to me. It's just apology, and an apology with an incentive is bullshit.
Sure.
And I have no tolerance for bullshit or bullshit apologies, and that's all they have to offer.
But afterward, backstage in the tunnel, there was never any. After you had said if she apologizes, I would shake her hand. There never was.
No, she would never make any effort to make things right with me unless it was, in a public arena where it would make her look good.
After your fight, we saw the video of your reaction to Anderson Silva's leg break. Mm-hmm. Talk about your reaction, and a lot of that, the leg break brought a lot of attention to the sport because of that. You've broken people's arms. Is it good attention? Is it bad attention? Talk a little bit about that.
I think it's not bad attention. It's stuff like that is bound to happen. Like Dana said, those exact injuries happen in basketball. And I was just talking about how when the girls run to do the horse and gymnastics, that little, what was it called, the Yamashenko or whatever, when they do like the round off. The flip before that. When they started doing that is when little girls started breaking their necks. When they missed, they hit head first and were completely paralyzed. And people still do that all the time. That's more dangerous than trying to kick somebody. And regardless of what you're doing, it's like there's going to be inherent risk involved, and the inherent risk in a kick is not anywhere near something like gymnastics, or I was saying like judo or football. Yeah, judo. We've had several deaths and people getting paralyzed and getting their necks broken. I mean, that's a much more dangerous thing to do. But I mean, it's just unfortunate, that it happened at all. But I don't think it's bad for the sport. It's bound to happen. It's part of what we do. And so, we just got to accept it for what it is and keep rolling.
Do you ever worry about seriously injuring someone when you lock on that arm bar?
No.
How about judo throws?
No, don't worry. I don't have enough room in my brain to worry. So it's just kind of like, I know that my thought process is like after the person's arm is already dislocated, I keep thinking about if they're not going to tap, how else could I do damage from here? It's just totally completely cold calculating time. So the first time that I fought Miesha, when her whole arm was bent back to the side, I was sitting up so I could punch her in the face with my other hand. Like, that's why I was sitting up. I wasn't sitting up to check on her. Like, when after it got to the point, I'm like, because the first time I did the armbar, it dislocated a little bit, and she was able to get out because of this location. It increases your range of motion, and you have more of a way to get out. And so I was just worried. I was like, okay, it's already out. She's trying to bridge out. I should bring it over to this side. She still hasn't tapped. Okay, I have a free hand. I should get up and punch her with this hand. And it's just more like, it's problem solving. It's not, opinions and emotions and stuff like that.
Thoughts on, this is the first time you've had someone maybe even relatively close to you in mat hours and competitive level. Mm-hmm. Thoughts on that with Sara?
I think it really makes this interesting fight that our pedigrees outside of MMA are so similar that like a lot of people with like my last fights, the other girls would have more MMA experience than me, but they wouldn't have as much competition experience as me. And this is the first time where I'm fighting somebody and she's fighting somebody that is so similar. We both have very relatively few years in MMA. We have so many years in competition. And so when that was exposed as being an advantage, because it really is, we're both undefeated, and having more MMA experience didn't really outweigh having more athletic competition for the girls so far. I mean, that's what's really shown with both of our records. And so eliminating that advantage, people are gonna there's much more wonder there, because okay, all right, you're an Olympian, and this other chick just started doing MMA a few years ago, and they're not that level. So once you get rid of that discrepancy and athletic caliber, it really comes down to who's the better mixed martial artist. And I think that's what makes this fight really interesting.
As a former Olympian, how far do you think we are from MMA as an Olympic sport?
I think there would have to be a lot of rule changes. I don't know. I don't think we're close to making MMA into an Olympic sport. You would have to think of some other kind of point system other than, the boxing one.
Yeah, where they have the points are for head, body, different. Yeah.
Yeah, and what about head protection? What about gloves? What about shin pads? What about the advantage that gives to strikers when people are bulkier and they can't grapple? I mean, and how hard would it be to fight, back to back? Because if you're doing a tournament style, it takes, in judo, you do it all in one day. You'll have 5 matches in a day. If you try and even get it over the whole month, or you have 5 matches in a month, or you have to have a real long qualification process so you can even go. I mean, it's just, I don't see. The Ultimate Fighter already kind of has that tournament, speech therapy, tournament. That was one of my words, by the way. That was one of them. Synonym, tournament, giraffe. I got giraffe down now. I can say giraffe. I can say vacuum cleaner. I had trouble with that for a while. That was vacuum cleaner for many years.
Vacuum.
Yeah.
But stuff is probably the closest thing we're getting.
Yeah.
To.
Yeah. They're thinking about setting up. They already have toughs in different countries and stuff like that. I think having something like the winners of all the toughs could come together for a short tournament. Come together for a tourney at the Olympics. So maybe if they got into some sort of partnership and made that work. But it'd be hard, and I don't know if the U.S. Olympic Committee, the International Olympic Committee, has anything to do with real promoters in boxing. They all take place separately. So, was there, what came first, professional boxing or amateur? Pro came first? It's like a chicken or the egg question.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if it would be more difficult to go backwards and have, amateurs. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I'm gonna say I don't know.
Are you gonna be training Shayna Baszler for this fight?
Yeah, she's at my house.
Did you watch Shayna's fight with Sara? And
yeah, I watched it live actually.
Did you think that Shayna won that fight? Because a lot of people did.
Shayna's my girl, and to be honest, when I was sitting there watching that fight, I thought that Shayna won. But I also thought it was very, very, very close. And so when it goes to the judges and it's close, it's like you can't expect anyone else to win a fight for you, But, now when I watch it, like I'm more biased than ever because she's my friend.
Did Sarah impress you in that fight?
Both Shayna and Sarah impressed me in that fight a lot, and I really think they brought out some of the best that each other have to offer. And you know, they both made mistakes too, and I'm sure that they've both improved a lot since then. I know Shayna's improved a lot since then, so Sarah's bound to as well. And yeah, I thought it was an amazing fight. It was really, really close, and if it's really, really close and it goes to a decision, however it goes, it's like you can't really blame the judges for letting it be in their hands. You know, I don't trust any judges. So if you let it go to them, then that's your mistake.
You really became villainized, you know, after Tough and in this, you know, with Miesha, the rivalry you guys have. Do you expect that the boos will continue? I know you say you don't care about them, but now with Sarah fighting somebody who you have no beef with, you have a lot of respect for, I'm just curious if you feel like Ronda the villain is going to be perpetuated for the rest of your career now, or are people going to come back around to thinking of you as the nice, sweet, young American girl that they all loved when you first started?
I've never acted like the nice, sweet, young American girl. My first walkout song was Sex and Violence. Like, why did anyone act like I was trying to act like that? I always wanted to be the heel. And I'm sure people are still going to boo me. You know, it's not like they forgot about it. And, you know, that's fine. It's the way it is. You know, like I said, it's like Saint McMahon. They're going to love her. They're going to love her. But I had a couple people like talking to me about the handshake thing. And I was thinking, like, you know what I think is the most iconic picture in all of sports? Ali standing over an unconscious, like, you know, this Sonny Liston, right? Yeah. And taunting an unconscious opponent on the ground, you know? How unsportsmanlike is that? Have you thought about it? Like, if I knocked Miesha out and then stood over her and I was like, yeah, that's right, you stupid fucking bitch, like, you know what everyone would say to me? You know how much everyone would freak out and call me the worst person in the world? And I was just like, that is one of the most iconic images in all of sports, and it was an unsportsmanlike moment. You know, people don't forget, like, Ali was the heel. He was, you know, he got a lot of boos. Now he's the greatest of all time. You know, Tyson, you know, people were calling him an ear-biting rapist. Everybody loves Tyson. And it's just like, I was actually talking to Shayna, and she was sitting on the couch, and she was like, she said something about, what was it? I wrote it down. She was just like, she told me it's the heels that become legends. If you think about it, it's like, name one, like, picture, like, iconic picture in sports history of people hugging. Maybe Griffin Bonner, you know, like, but really, if you think about all of it, it's just like, the people that evoke so much emotion are the ones that are remembered, and they're not always positive emotions, you know? And so, I'm just going out there to fight as well as possible, and hopefully people remember my athletic accomplishments more than anything else. But yeah, I'm expecting a lot of boos for a while, but you know, whatever. You know, cheers don't pay for my gas.
In the press kit, you said something really interesting about Fedor.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what it says in there? What you said about Fedor?
That I want to have 57 of his babies?
Yes.
It's true. I think he's married though, so I'm out of luck.
Yeah.
And was he just an inspiration as far as when you got into MMA?
Like he was like my first real exposure to MMA. Like Manny and Caro, I would see like little bits of their stuff. I didn't know it was like a real thing. You know, I would see Carl putting on his heat shorts and boxing in front of a camera while I'm sitting there in my judo gi and everyone else is doing judo. I'm like, guys, Carl's over there boxing in his underwear. It's really weird. And so I never really thought of it as like a real thing until a couple years ago, a friend of mine showed me a Fedor Emelianenko highlight, and it just blew my mind. Like I was just like, that is the most amazing thing I've ever seen in the whole world, and that guy was so cool, and da da da. And so he's always been my image of like what MMA is supposed to be and what it really is. It's how I discovered it. And so yeah, I will always be, you know, not so secretly in love with Fedor Emelianenko, and he's like the only like big MMA star that I like haven't met yet. That's okay, because if I did, I would probably turn 19 Shades of Red and then faint and then hope that he never read any of the comments that I had about him. It's like, man, I hope they didn't translate any of that to Russian and send it your way. But yeah, still feel the same. 57. 58?
It's a lot.
Weird.
I'd go 58 for him if he really wanted another one. But that's it. Maybe if I had triplets once, you know?
Yeah.
If I had triplets once, I'd go 59. Anyway, what's up?
Thanks, Ken.
So yeah, before this starts to get really
Before this goes the
Thanks,
wrong
everybody.
way.
Thanks, everybody.
That's so
Thanks, Ron.
great.